There was once a time when a clear gap existed in the pen display market. You had the upper end, which promised quality but at a much higher price, whereas the lower end was often more affordable, but the trade-off was the quality. Thankfully, as technology prices have gradually come down, this gap has begun to narrow, meaning there are a lot more good quality options available to us artists on a tight budget. One company I've seen this happen with is Huion. I've reviewed many of their devices over the years, and each one has seen a gradual improvement in their features, yet they have kept their prices relatively low. This certainly seems to be the case with the third generation Kamvas 16. Although it isn't branded as a pro device, it features some updates which would have you thinking otherwise. This time you have a slightly larger screen, which comes with higher resolution and brightness levels. The digital pen features their new Pentec 4 technology, which offers greater precision with over 16,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. But the big change is the addition of the two physical dials sitting on the side of the device. This all sounds amazing, but are Huion just distracting us with fancy gadgets and gimmicks, or do they have a winner on their hands? Continue watching to find out. Now before we get started, I just want to state that even though Huion supplied the Kamvas 16 Gen 3 for me to test, the opinions offered in this review are completely my own and have not been influenced in any way. Upgrades. Before we unbox the Kamvas 16 Gen 3, let's first look at how it's improved over the previous version, which I think was released back in 2021. As mentioned, we now have a larger screen, which has increased from 15.6 inches to 15.8 inches. This also comes with a higher resolution now too, moving up from Full HD to QHD, so you have a 2560 by 1440 or 2.5K canvas to work on. The screen brightness has increased to 220 nits from 195 in the previous model. Plus the screen is now fully matte glass as opposed to simply being a matte screen protector. The pen now features Pentec 4.0 technology, making it more precise and fluid with its 16,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, double the levels of the previous pen. Plus Huion are giving us a 3-button pen this time too. Finally, we have the two dials which sit overhanging the side of the device, making them easier to control. Unboxing. Let's dive in and take a look inside the box. This is something you don't usually see, a colour calibration report. Huion must be confident in their display if they are also including a report illustrating the calibration which the device had gone through before it was shipped. Here we go, and first we have the device itself. We will come back and unwrap these after we have seen what else we have in the box. Beneath this is the stand, and we can see the pen holder on the left as well as a box for the power adapter. Under the stand we have the pen, cables and a pack which includes the instructions, a cleaning cloth and an artist's glove too. You only get one pen with this device, but sometimes that's all you need. Let's have a closer look at the pen holder, and this is the standard holder which also houses the 10 extra nibs. We have the power adapter now, which will be different depending on what region you're in. Let's look at the cables. There's a standard 3-in-1 cable Huion tend to offer with their devices, plus an extension cable if you need to use additional power. The difference this time round is there is a single USB-C connection, rather than the double one we have seen on previous devices. You are also given a USB-C to USB-C cable and a USB-C to USB-A cable too. So that's the box contents, so let's unwrap them and take a closer look. It's just like Christmas. The tablet. The big selling point with the third generation Kamvas 16 is the new dials, and personally I do love a good dial. From back in my Mobile Studio Pro days, I found them much better and more intuitive to use for quickly changing the brush size or zooming in and out of the screen. So it's great to see not just one here, but two. They feel solid and have a really satisfying click as you turn them, and with there being two of them, it makes the device more friendly to those who are left-handed. Inside each of these is a button which you can use to swap between the dial's functions, so in effect, each dial has 3 distinct actions. As well as the dials, you also have 6 buttons, and all these are fully configurable too through the Huion tablet software. Down the side we have 2 USB-C ports, one of which is recessed slightly, and it's this one that is used for the 3-in-1 cable, if used. The other is used when connecting using the fully featured USB-C cable, but more on that later. The tablet is only 13mm thick, plus it's light too, weighing just 1.2 kilograms, making it a great desktop companion and very portable. There are 4 rubber feet on the back which help to keep it steady while on your desk. One thing to mention is that the 13-inch version of this device comes in 2 colours, Cosmic Black and Sakura Pink. It would have been nice to have those options for the 16 too though. The stand. The stand is quite basic, but seems to have had a slight redesign since my last review. Rather than the top folding down to act as the support, you're given 2 metal rods which instead fold up and hook into the back of the faceplate. Compared to the previous version, this does offer more angles to rest on, and in practice it did give me good support while working. The digital pen. As mentioned, Huion are giving its users their 3-button pen this time round. I personally feel that this is a good decision, especially for those of us who work in 3D as well as 2D. Personally, I find the extra button works well for quickly accessing essential mouse clicks you don't normally get with a 2-button pen. It's a standard, thicker size but feels good to hold, and the rubber grip makes it more comfortable. There's no eraser on the end though, which for me isn't an issue, but this may put some people off. The digital pen uses Huion's Pentec 4 technology, which, along with the HV200 chip, is said to enhance pen pressure and cursor tracking, as well as improve edge detection, meaning there is less of an offset when you get near the edge of the screen. Rather than 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, you now get over 16,000, plus 60 degrees of tilt recognition. I have to say that the pen strokes did feel silky smooth, but I'm not sure I could feel all the pressure levels, but I will test these more later. Setup. The 3rd generation Kamvas 16 can be used with a single USB-C cable for extra convenience, but this does depend on your own hardware. Huion state that if you want to use your own full-featured USB-C cable, ensure it supports USB 3.1 Gen 1, DisplayPort 1.2 and above, which is fine, but they should also mention that your computer needs to also have a compatible USB-C port. If it's like other pen displays in this area, you need a port which also supports DisplayPort Alt mode, which also allows for the streaming of the display, much like a Thunderbolt port for example. Unfortunately, my computer doesn't support this currently, but thankfully Huion do give you the option of using the 3-in-1 cable instead, which uses a HDMI and USB-A port, plus a cable for power too if needed. You use this if your device doesn't pass enough power natively, so the screen doesn't reach its full brightness, and this sometimes occurs when connecting to a laptop rather than desktop. The problem I had was the desk where I usually work isn't close to my PC, so the 3-in-1 cable was too short. I tried using cable extensions, but this made the device very unstable, so I had to move around my workstation so I could use the Kamvas 16. Not ideal for me, but I could work around it. But these are things to keep in mind if you have a similar setup and a slightly older computer. In the end, I had to make space on my desk temporarily, just for testing purposes. But to be fair, with this being a smaller device, it was quite easy to move around. Software. Huion's tablet software is streamlined and easy to use, plus includes some nice features. When you first install the device, you need to define the working area, so which monitor you want to use it with. You do this early on because you also have the option to use the Kamvas 16 as a simple pen tablet, so in effect using it without the display active. So you can see here I have 2 monitors, plus the Kamvas 16, which is the lower one on the right. You can quickly swap between the displays if needed using one of the buttons. You just need to configure it in the software to do this. The central button inside each dial will cycle through 3 predefined options. There are lots of choices available, even some which are tailored towards specific software like Photoshop and Lightroom, which make it quicker and easier to set up. For the buttons, you also have similar options, so you are free to set these up however you like, be it a keyboard shortcut or to run a specific program. You will see we also have a quick menu option. Clicking Customize will allow you to set this up. There are 6 buttons on the menu, and again you can make these do anything you like. You can see if I click the 3rd button on the pen, this is set up by default to open that quick menu. So if you're working in Photoshop for example, these could be set to merge your layers, flip the canvas, or quickly perform any other repetitive task. You could also set all these up on a per application basis, so they would automatically change if you were working in Maya, ZBrush, Substance Painter or any other application, ultimately speeding up your workflow. And the Huion software will automatically suggest the most common layout when you add a program. With the digital pen we have the same options open to us with the buttons. We also have control over the pressure sensitivity, so we adjust how hard or soft the pen is. Finally, down at the bottom is an area where you can adjust the dials too. This is currently very limited and just lets you change the sensitivity. The tablet in use. As with all the devices I'm sent, I began with the usual tests. This involved investigating how the pen pressure held up, checking if there is any noticeable lag, or looking for a slight jitter in each stroke. As you can see from the screen capture, everything is coming through really nicely. Not only is the pressure super smooth, but the way the pen moves across the screen feels good too. With straight lines drawn using a ruler, there was no real noticeable jitter or wobble too, which is good. If we look over my shoulder now, you can see that the camera does detect some slight lag, but the good news is it's not noticeable when in use. I next decided to compare the pressure levels to see if I could tell the difference between the industry standard of 8,000 levels or the 16,000 we get with the Kamvas 16. Here you can see me drawing 3 lines, again using a ruler. These are being done with a pen display which has just 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. Now, as you can imagine, the pressure will vary as it's difficult to apply the same amount each time, but we are getting a nice gradient as I draw. These next 3 lines are being drawn on the Kamvas 16 Gen 3. What we can see is there seems to be a smoother gradient between the levels. Now this could be down to several factors. Maybe it's the device settings, or perhaps I'm applying the pressure in a more uniform way, but I can certainly see and feel a difference. Now, is this difference enough for you to upgrade to 16,000 levels? Maybe not, but it's nice to have. With those initial tests done, I settled down to try the device in real-world conditions. So I set myself the task of painting a simple portrait on it, and unfortunately I did have some teething problems once I started working. Firstly, I initially used one of the dials to zoom in and out of the canvas, which is one of the default options. But I found the steps were too great, so I ended up swapping back to a button for zooming. A setting to adjust the zooming or rotating step size would be useful, so we have more control. But then again, this may be an issue on the Photoshop side of things, because I've had similar issues with dials on other tablets. On a related note, I did also find that when using the top dial, my arm would occasionally catch the lower one, which was set to rotate the canvas. Slightly annoying, but I did eventually learn to keep my arm away from that dial. Unfortunately, I also found the software to be quite buggy. There were instances where I couldn't select and drag areas of the UI, like adjusting a layer's opacity. Plus there were times when the pen wouldn't swap back to the previous tool. As an example, in Photoshop I would move the canvas on one window, but then the tool would be stuck as that option. So I had to resort to restarting Photoshop and in some cases tablet software too to get back on track. Now these issues could be fixed with a software update, so I wouldn't say they were deal breakers, especially when the hardware is so good. The screen is so bright and colourful, and even with a matte screen there isn't any of the grain you usually get with these devices, so each pixel is crisp and clear. Overall, bugs aside, I really enjoyed using the Kamvas 16 Gen 3. It feels so good to work on, and I think 16 inches is the ideal size for a portable device in this range. If I am being picky, I miss not having the touchscreen input, but at this price point I wouldn't expect it. Also, I did notice the device getting warmer on the side closest to the USB-C ports, but never anything I would deem as uncomfortable. Should you invest? I can't believe the Kamvas 16 Gen 3 is only £499 and isn't classed as a pro device, even with the two dials, the 2.5K screen resolution and the Pentec 4 technology. Yes, maybe pushing the resolution up to 4K would classify it as a professional device, but that would increase the price too, and with a screen size of only 15.8 inches, would you need that high resolution? Would you even notice it? Let's take a minute to compare it to something like the Wacom Moving. Its screen size is only 13.3 inches, it has just 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, and only a handful of hardware buttons. Yes, it has an OLED screen, but it's only Full HD, so 1920 by 1080. It does have a touch screen though, but still, that's £730. What about the SenseLabs Pen Display 16, which I'm currently reviewing? It's a similar size, but it does have a 4K OLED screen. Yet again, just 8,000 pressure levels and no configurable buttons, unless you buy the Quick Keys remote, which is sold separately. Now that is currently £969, which is more expensive than the Moving, and even more so if you get the bundle including the Quick Keys remote. So after comparing the Kamvas 16 Gen 3 to those two, I do feel like you get much more for your money. If you want my advice, and you're in the market for a pen display tablet, bag this beauty before Huion discover the error in their branding, put the Pro back in the name, and bump up the price. Okay, there we go. You made it to the end of another review. While you're here, why not check out some of the other videos I have, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments below, or reach out to me through the antCGi Discord server. Thanks again for watching, this is antCGi signing off, and I will see you on the next one.